So our story starts around 2010 to 2011. The only mature game we were allowed to play was Halo 2 on the original Xbox we had. Either that or the original Forza on the original Xbox as well. Nothing else. We had the Wii, but that was literally our only home console. We also had the DS as well, but that's a portable console. I and my two younger brothers, who are both twins, never made it past Cairo Station, the first proper level in Halo 2, and I had no idea what Halo was about. To me, it looked like a Star Wars-esque game. I often turned to my brother, let's call him Bullshit, because that's what he was, for what Halo was about. So he made up a lot of bizarre stories for what everything in the games were, and I want to share them. Now keep in mind, I only knew about the original trilogy. I had no idea about Reach, which was the newest game at the time. I only had the start of Halo 2 for context, which isn't much. Also, for some reason, in the opening cutscene when the aliens were speaking, I had no idea what any of them were saying. I couldn't understand one word, so I had to rely on visual cues to help, which wasn't much help at all, because they just talked and jolted a few times to me. So I had no idea what was going on aside from some sort of meeting. I also couldn't comprehend what the human characters were saying either. I could only make out a few sentences, which was better, but not much. The only character name I knew was Master Chief, and that was because it was probably on the back cover. But who knows? But thank God I wasn't someone who thought the Master Chief's name was Halo at least. Since I couldn't understand what these characters were saying most of the time, I turned to my younger brother for help. He told me a lot of bullshit I will tell you now. So let's start. Since this is a long time ago, I can't exactly tell you in which order he told me these things, so I just go from something and start from there. I asked my brother about what the alien meeting was about, or who the aliens are, and he told me it was about the evil plan, but he didn't say much other than that. He also told me that this guy right here, his name was Captain Rex, and he was the leader of, get this, leader of the food germs. Yes, you heard me right. Food germs. Like solid consumables and bacteria. Food germs. So the food germs were an evil alien empire that turns humans into food germs. Like the Arbiter's torture scene. I thought I saw a human be turned into an alien instead. I wasn't good at visualization yet. And since I found that to be really dark, he also told me that food germ piss was purple and that their shit was green. Or was it yellow? I can't remember. When I asked him about the Master Chief, he made up his backstory on the fly. He said that he was a normal guy called Bob walking on the street one day, and then the Space Army fleet in all its might showed up, and they asked him to join the Space Army in return for immortality. The Chief said yes, and that's why he's the Master Chief. He told me that the Chief was over 100 years old, and he'll never die from age. He can only die from damage, which is why he can die in-game. He told me that in Halo 1, the Master Chief was a soldier fighting aliens because they invaded Earth. There's not much I remember from his backstory. I also remember stumbling into the legendary ending for the first game on YouTube with zero context, and I see the black guy in Halo 2 hugging the elite with no context. I asked my brother about it, and he said that the alien in this cutscene was actually a major character. His name was Sam and he was 20 years old. And he's actually a good alien and a friend of the black guy we see at the start of the second game. Oh, by the way, my brother also told me that Sergeant Johnson's name was Captain Brown, which is the most racist name you could give somebody, but I'm not going to touch that even more than I have, so let's move on. He told me that Sam was also friends with Captain Rex, and that Sam and Rex weren't in Halo 1 for most of the game because they were having a vacation on an island, probably Hawaii, accompanied by underdressed dancers of their species, playing into Hawaiian stereotypes while the Master Chief was fighting his troops on a planet. I also asked my brother what Halo was, if it wasn't the Chief's name, and he said that Halo was a planet full of hay, the stuff horses eat, and that it's a mythical planet that both the food germs and human space army are trying to find before the other, because it'll be an endless supply of hay, thus the name. Also, my brother said that Sam had a crucial role in Halo 2 and 3, where Sam was friends with both Captain Brown and Captain Rex, and since those two are on opposite sides in a war, that meant there's a crisis where Sam has to make peace with both sides. And it eventually happens at the end of Halo 3, and Sam is celebrated as the chosen one. So both the human space army and food germs make him go up a human ladder to a diving board for some reason, and they told him to jump off and land on the concrete. Of course, Sam said that he was scared, but they encouraged him to jump off, and he splat onto the ground and died, which sounded like a really fucked up ending to me. My brother also said that Captain Rex also dies as the final boss of Halo 3 in a level before the cutscene where Sam died, and that Captain Rex was the only boss fight in all 3 games. Also, my brother said the reason there wasn't a Halo 4 was because Master Chief also died in Halo 3, and that Halo 3 was the ending. Also, when it comes to Captain Brown's fate, he left his job at the Space Army and became a heavy smoker, and he died 50 years after Halo 3. Also, I watched an out of context video on the Flood, and I asked my brother what the Flood was, and he told me that they were rotten food. Bread specifically, and that they came alive in a science experiment and killed everyone. Also, a strange fact about my poor visualization. I ended up thinking that the Dark Crystal and the Halo games shared a universe because I thought the bad guys in the Dark Crystal looked like the elites. And so I thought it was a sequel to Halo, since Master Chief, Sam, and Captain Rex weren't in it. I thought that the human space army wasn't in it because the war was over. I literally thought the Dark Crystal was a sequel to Halo 3, except it wasn't called Halo. This can also go down to my brother telling me that the bad guys were food germs while we were watching it. So my brother, as you can tell, was full of crap. He didn't know squat about Halo, so he just made everything up. My brother always was a stupid liar. He constantly made up wild stories about how an alien broke into his room and somehow faked a picture of what looks like an alien because the angle direction of the shot made something in his room look like a creature comparable to a cryptid. So that's my bizarre story. I'm JJ Plagiarisms. And until next time, I need a weapon.